Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we will discuss with each other the histology of reproductive system. First, male genital system. We should revise the general structure and different parts of male genital system studied during semester 2. In this semester, we studied that male genital system is composed of primary sex organ, secondary sex organ. The primary sex organ are the two testes. Secondary sex organ composed of first excretory genital duct, which are epididymis, vas deferens, ejaculatory duct, and urethra. Second, accessory genital gland, there are seminal vesicle, bulbourethral gland, and prostate. Lastly, external genitalia, there are pens and scrotum. All of them you studied in detail in semester 2. And you also studied that the testis is a primary sex organ covered by three covering from outer to inner, which are scrotum, tunica vaginalis, and capsule. And you studied also that the capsule is formed of three layers, from the outer to the inner, which are visceral layer of tunica vaginalis, middle tunica albuginea, and inner tunica vasculosa. And you also studied that tunica albuginea is a dense connective tissue that thickens posteriorly and sends fibrous septa that divide the testis into about 250 pyramidal compartments or testicular lobules. Each lobule contains about from 1 to 4 seminiferous tubules. In between these tubules, there is interstitial connective tissue. This interstitial connective tissue contains an interstitial cell which is called Leydig cell, which is very important as it sensitizes and secretes testosterone hormone. Each of these seminiferous tubules is lined by two types of cell. A spermatogenic cell, which is a stratified renewing cell, and another type of cell which is called Sertoli cell. This unilaminar and considered as supportive cell, which is responsible for formation of blood-testis barrier, which is formed by tight junction between these cells. Spermatogenic cell, which line the seminiferous tubule from the basement membrane towards the lumen. These cells arranged in this order. First, spermatogonia. Second, primary spermatocyte. Third, secondary spermatocyte. Then, spermatid, and the lumen is rich in mature sperm. Spermatogenesis. This process starts at the time of puberty and includes two processes: spermatocytogenesis followed by spermiogenesis. The aim of this process is to obtain mature sperm. First, spermatocytogenesis. The primitive germ cell, which is called spermatogonia, enters several mitotic divisions to reach what is called primary spermatocyte. This primary spermatocyte is the largest cell in spermatogenic lineage, which enter the first meiotic division and gave us what is called secondary spermatocyte. This secondary spermatocyte are short-lived cells, enter rapidly the second meiotic division, and gave us what is called spermatid. This spermatid is the smallest cell in spermatogenic lineage and have haploid 23 chromosomes. This spermatid will enter the second stage of spermatogenesis, which is called spermiogenesis. This stage includes morphological transformation. No division occurs in this stage. So, what is spermiogenesis? Spermiogenesis is the final stage in sperm production, and it is the process of transformation of spermatid into spermatozoa or mature sperm. It includes formation of a chromosome, condensation of the nucleus, development of the flagellum, and the loss of the matched cytoplasm. So, two phases, Golgi phase and acrosomal phase. During the early Golgi phase, the cytoplasm of spermatid contain prominent Golgi apparatus near the nucleus, mitochondria, pair of centriole, free ribosome, and tubule of smooth endoplasmic reticulum. First, a small pro-acrosomal vesicle accumulate in the Golgi apparatus and subsequently coalesce to form a single membrane-limited acrosomal cap close to one end of the nucleus. At the same time, centriole migrate to a position near to the cell surface and opposite the forming acrosome. One of these centrioles act as a basal body and serving to organize the axoneme of the flagellum. The acrosomal phase. During the acrosomal phase, the acrosomal cap is spread to cover about half of the condensing nucleus. Acrosome is a specialized type of lysosome containing several hydrolytic enzymes as hyaluronidase, neuraminidase, acid phosphatase, and acrosine, which is responsible for acrosomal reaction as it dissociates cell of the corona radiata and digests zona pellucida. During this phase also, which is the acrosomal phase, spermatid oriented towards the base of the Sertoli cell, and the axoneme towards the lumen of the seminiferous tubule. The nucleus becomes more elongated, chromatin more condensed, the flagellal growth continue. The mitochondria aggregate around the proximal part of each flagellum, forming a second region known as middle piece, which is the region which contains the ATP necessary for flagellal movement. Now, spermatozoa is generated, and finally, unneeded cytoplasm is shed as residual body, which is phagocytosed by Sertoli cell. Now, what is the electron microscopic structure of the mature sperm?
Structure of a sperm. It is a microscopic structure composed of a head, neck, a middle piece, and a tail. A plasma membrane envelopes the whole body of sperm. The sperm head contains an elongated haploid nucleus, the anterior portion of which is covered by a cap-like structure called acrosome. The acrosome is filled with enzymes that help fertilization of ovum. The middle piece possesses numerous mitochondria which produce energy for the movement of tail that facilitates sperm motility essential for fertilization. The human male ejaculates 200 to 300 million sperms during coitus. 60% must have normal shape and 40% show vigorous motility.
When we examine mature sperm by transmission electron microscope, we found that it is about 65 micrometer in length. It consists of head, neck, and tail. The head is about 5 micrometer in length, contains nucleus with haploid genetic material, and covered by a chromosomal cap. The neck, it is the area of connection between the head and the tail, and contains two centrioles, the distal one forming the axoneme of the flagellum. Its tail is divided from the anterior to posterior into three segments: middle piece, principal piece, and end piece. The core of the tail of the sperm is formed of axoneme like that of the cilium, which formed of 9 doubled of microtubule and 2 central single. And this extends from the base of the neck to most of the end piece. The outer aspect of each doublet of microtubule is associated with dense fiber at the principal and middle piece that supply rigidity to the tail. Now, what is the parts of the tail? The tail is formed of middle piece, principal piece, and end piece. First, middle piece, about 5 micrometer in length. At this region, the outer circumference contains a sheath of mitochondria, arranged spirally around the axoneme of the flagellum, separated from it by dense fibers. Second, the principal piece, about 50 micrometer in length. At this region, the outer circumference contains a fiber sheath that support also the tail region. One ventral and one dorsal of the 9 dense fiber fuse with the outer fiber sheath. There is a constriction separate the middle piece from the principal piece with a condensation called annulus. Finally, the end piece, which is about 5 micrometer in length, it is the terminal segment of the tail and is formed of axoneme covered with cell membrane. Female genital system. The general structure of the female genital system previously studied in semester 2. So we must revise the general structure of female genital system previously studied. Previously, we studied that female genital system consists of primary sex organ, they are two ovaries, and secondary sex organ, there are two oviducts, uterus, vagina, external genitalia, and mammary glands. We also studied that the ovary is covered by single layer of germinal epithelium, resting on dense layer of connective tissue called tunica albuginea. Its parenchyma consists of cortex and medulla. The cortex contains ovarian follicle separated by connective tissue stroma, and the medulla consists of loose connective tissue and blood vessel, and there is no sharp demarcation between the cortex and the medulla. The cortex of the ovary contains ovarian follicle at different stage or various stage of development, ranging from primordial follicle, primary follicle, secondary follicle, and Gravian follicle. We also studied the general histological structure of the uterus, as it is a pear-shaped organ, consists of body, fundus, and cervix. The body is the upper rounded part. The fundus is a dome-shaped structure or dome-shaped part of the uterus above the entrance of the fallopian tube. Cervix is the lower cylindrical part projected into the vagina. The wall of the uterus consists of 3 layers, from inside to outside. The inner part or the inner layer is the endometrium. Then the middle is the myometrium, and the outer is the perimetrium. The endometrium consists of epithelium and lamina propria. The epithelium is simple columnar epithelium, partially ciliated and partially secretory. The secretory cell form the uterine gland, which penetrate the full thickness of endometrium. The lamina propria consists of loose connective tissue, collagen type 3, fibroblasts, and ground substance. Functionally, the endometrium is divided into 2 zones: superficial zone or the inner zone, or the sloughed zone, which is located towards the lumen of the uterus. It contains the epithelium and most of the length of the gland. Its lamina propria is less cellular and rich in ground substance. It is supplied by spiral arteriole. This zone undergoes profound change during menstrual cycle. The second zone is the deep zone, or what is called the basal zone, which is adjacent to the myometrium. Contain lamina propria with high cellular content. Contains the basal ends of the uterine gland. This zone not changed during menstrual cycle, and it is supplied by straight arteries. The middle layer, or the myometrium. It is a thick, highly vascular, smooth muscle layer, formed of bundle of smooth muscle fiber separated by connective tissue containing blood vessel. The bundle of smooth muscle form 4 interwoven, poorly defined layers. The first and the fourth group of fiber disposed parallel to the long axis of the uterus, while the middle layer circularly disposed and containing blood vessel. During pregnancy, muscle fiber undergo hypertrophy and hyperplasia and form collagen, which strengthens the uterine wall. After delivery, it regains to the pre-pregnant state. The perimetrium. It is the outer connective tissue layer which is continuous with the ligaments. When this layer is covered by mesothelium, it is called serosa, while when it is not covered by mesothelium, it is called adventitia. Uterine cervix. The uterine cervix is the lower cylindrical part of the uterus. It consists of mainly 85% dense connective tissue and smooth muscle. It includes cervical canal with two openings. One open into the uterine cavity and it is called internal os, and the other open into the vagina and it is called external os. So the cervix has two surfaces. Surface in the cervical canal, which is called endocervix, and the other surface facing the vagina and it is called exocervix. The mucosal lining of endocervix is a mucus secreting simple columnar epithelium resting on thick lamina propria which contain the cervical glands. These glands don't shed during menstruation, and their secretion depend on functional state. As it is, at the time of ovulation, the cervical secretion is maximum watery to facilitate the movement of the sperm, while in the luteal phase it becomes mucus, viscous, hinders the passage of sperm. And it is also viscid at pregnancy to prevent penetration by microorganisms. When or the region of the cervix where the endocervical canal open into the vagina, it is called the external os, which bulge into the upper part of the vagina. Here, the exocervix or exocervical mucosa is covered with stratified squamous epithelium non-keratinized.
Fertilization is the epic story of a single sperm facing incredible odds to unite with an egg and form a new human life. It is the story of all of us. During sexual intercourse, about 300 million sperm enter the vagina. Soon afterward, millions of them will either flow out of the vagina or die in its acidic environment. However, many survive because of the protective elements provided in the fluid surrounding them. Next, the sperm must pass through the cervix, an opening into the uterus. Usually, it remains tightly closed, but here the cervix is open for a few days while the woman ovulates. The sperm swim through the cervical mucus, which is thinned to a more watery consistency for easier passage. Once inside the cervix, the sperm continues swimming toward the uterus, though millions will die trying to make it through the mucus. Some sperm remain behind, caught in the folds of the cervix, but they may later continue the journey as a backup to the first group. Inside the uterus, muscular uterine contractions assist the sperm on their journey toward the egg. However, resident cells from the woman's immune system, mistaking the sperm for foreign invaders, destroy thousands more. Next, half the sperm head for the empty fallopian tube, while the other half swim toward the tube containing the unfertilized egg. Now, only a few thousand remain. Inside the fallopian tube, tiny cilia push the egg toward the uterus. To continue, the sperm must surge against this motion to reach the egg. Some sperm get trapped in the cilia and die. During this part of the journey, chemicals in the reproductive tract cause the membranes covering the heads of the sperm to change. As a result, the sperm become hyperactive, swimming harder and faster toward their destination. At long last, the sperm reach the egg, Only a few dozen of the original 300 million sperm remain. The egg is covered with a layer of cells called the corona radiata. The sperm must push through this layer to reach the outer layer of the egg, the zona pellucida. When sperm reach the zona pellucida, they attach to specialized sperm receptors on the surface, which triggers their acrosomes to release digestive enzymes, enabling the sperm to burrow into the layer. Inside the zona pellucida is a narrow, fluid-filled space just outside the egg cell membrane. The first sperm to make contact will fertilize the egg. After a perilous journey and against incredible odds, a single sperm attaches to the egg cell membrane. Within a few minutes, their outer membranes fuse and the egg pulls the sperm inside. This event causes changes in the egg membrane that prevent other sperm from attaching to it. Next, the egg releases chemicals that push other sperm away from the egg and create an impenetrable fertilization membrane. As the reaction spreads outward, the zona pellucida hardens, trapping any sperm unlucky enough to be caught inside. Outside the egg, sperm are no longer able to attach to the zona pellucida. Meanwhile, inside the egg, the tightly packed male genetic material spreads out. A new membrane forms around the genetic material, creating the male pronucleus. Inside, the genetic material reforms into 23 chromosomes. The female genetic material, awakened by the fusion of the sperm with the egg, finishes dividing, resulting in the female pronucleus, which also contains 23 chromosomes. As the male and female pronuclei form, spiderweb-like threads, called microtubules, pull them toward each other. The two sets of chromosomes join together, completing the process of fertilization. At this moment, a unique genetic code arises, instantly determining gender, hair color, eye color, and hundreds of other characteristics. This new single cell, the zygote, is the beginning of a new human being. And now the cilia in the fallopian tube gently sweep the zygote toward the uterus, where he or she will implant in the rich uterine lining, growing and maturing for the next 9 months until ready for birth.
The menstrual cycle. From the time of puberty, which starts at the age of 12 to 15 years old, which is the age of menarche, until the age of menopause, which occurs at the age of 45 to 50 years, the pituitary gonadotropin produces cyclic change in the level of ovarian hormone, which causes the endometrium to undergo cyclic structural modification. So, the menstrual cycle is cyclic structural change of endometrium due to ovarian hormones, which are estrogen and progesterone, under stimulation of the anterior pituitary hormone. The duration of the menstrual cycle is variable, but it's average about 28 days. Day 1 of the cycle is usually taken as the day when menstrual bleeding appears. This menstrual discharge consists of degenerating endometrium mixed with blood from its ruptured blood vessel. It is divided into 3 phases. Menstrual phase, the first 4 days. Proliferative phase, from the 4th day of the cycle to the 14th day. It is about 8 to 10 days on average. The third phase, which is the secretory phase, begins at ovulation and lasts about 14 days. So it is start at the 15th day of the cycle to the 28th day of the cycle. The proliferative phase. also called follicular phase or estrogenic phase, begin after menstrual phase. It coincides with the rapid growth of a small group of ovarian follicles, involving transition from pre-antral to antral follicles, with development of their ceca interna. These follicles actively secrete estrogen and increasing its plasma concentration. Estrogen acts on endometrium, inducing cellular proliferation, reconstituting the functional layer lost during menstruation. As cells in the basal end of the gland proliferate, migrate, and form the new epithelial covering, exposed during the preceding menstruation. During this phase of the cycle, which is the proliferative phase, endometrial lining is a simple columnar epithelium. The uterine glands are straight tubules with now nearly empty lumen. The cell of the gland gradually accumulates cistern of rough endoplasmic reticulum and large Golgi complex in preparation for the secretory phase. The spiral arteries lengthen as the functional layer is re-established and grow, and extensive microvasculature form near the surface of the functional layer. At the end of this phase, which is the proliferative phase, the endometrial thickening is about 2 to 3 mm thick. After the proliferative phase, the secretory phase begins. It starts as a result of progesterone hormone secreted by the corpus luteum forming after ovulation. The progesterone stimulates the epithelial cell of the uterine gland that formed during the proliferative phase. These cells begin to accumulate glycogen. Sex secretion, rich in glycogen and glycoprotein, dilates the glandular lumen. The glands in this phase are highly coiled, and the superficial microvasculature now includes thin-walled blood-filled lacunae. The endometrium in this phase reaches its maximum thickness, about 5 mm in thickness, due to accumulation of secretion and edema of the stroma. If fertilization occurs, the embryo transported to the uterus about 5 days later and attached to the uterine epithelium when the endometrial thickness and the secretory activity are optimal for embryo implantation and nutrition. Progesterone here also inhibits strong contraction of the myometrium that may interfere with implantation of the embryo. But if fertilization not occur, corpus luteum regress, and the circulating level of progesterone decreases from 8 to 10 days after ovulation, which lead to the onset of menstruation, as the drop of progesterone hormone leads to vasoconstriction of the spiral arteriole and ischemia of the endometrium and shedding of functional zone of the endometrium and the beginning of the menstrual phase. And thank you.